Hello everyone, it's Mr. Kramer's video lesson. Today we're going to be doing estimating the square root, but there's a little note here, it's not a perfect square. So you're going to go say, what? It's not a perfect square? Well, you're going to do this and you're going to do it without a calculator. So, before we get started, remember, success begins at the start. So everything we do to get ourselves ready for success, right in the beginning, that is super critical. So make sure you've got no distractions. Make sure you commit. Say, hey, I'm going to focus on this and only this for like 10 minutes. And 100% focus. Don't be thinking about something else. Just put it aside for a while. And what's going to happen, you will be a thinker. So, and if you're a thinker in this world, you're going to be amazing. So let's keep on going. What do we need to do? We need to warm up. It's Monday morning. Let's do something from last class. So let's do squares. Let's fill this table in. 1 times 1 is 1. Now remember, squared means the number to the left twice. So 3 times 3 is 9. Let's go up and down. 5 times 5 is 25. Now if you want to, you can fast forward, you can pause. 7 times 7 is 49. 9 times 9 is 81. 11 times 11, they're getting big. 121. 13 times 13, I'm not sure if we did this last class, but it's this big number and you can impress your friends at parties. 13 squared, 169. Ooh. 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. I love showing your work. Anyone who can do it in their head, it's kind of fancy, but really, I think the world is impressed with people that can show their thinking, show a complete answer, and they look at that answer and they go, hey, the whole thing is beautiful. 8 times 8 is 64. 10 times 10 is 100. 12 times 12 is 144. And then lastly, 14 times 14 is 196. Now, if it takes you a moment to do those last two, 13 and 14, that's okay. It's always good to stretch your abilities. Well, now what we're going to do is change over to square roots. Now, remember, what does square root mean? Let's do number 4. The square root 4 means what number times itself is 4? Well, 2 times 2 is 4. Well, we're just going to take one of those. So the square root of 4 is 2. Let's do 16. What number times itself is 16? And it's got to be the same number. 4 times 4 is 16. What number times itself is 36? 6 times 6. Now, I'd like you to finish this table off. We are going to use this sheet later on, so make sure you go through it and you feel really good about the answers. 64 comes from 8 times 8, so one of them comes out. 100 comes from 10 times 10. 144 from 12 times 12. If you want to use the sheet that we just did, go for it. Now we can go back and we think the square root of 1 is 1. Now it makes sense. It's easier. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 25 is 5. What number times itself? I actually find the square root of 49 is the hardest one to remember. Square root of 81 is 9. And square root of 121 is 11. So make sure you got all that. We're going to use this sheet. So make sure you keep for later. There's nothing that stops you from using something you did previous in the lesson. So let's go down. What's our question? Here's our question. I've got some steps here for you. They're not going to make sense until we do a question. So let's go right to number 1. Estimate the following. The square root of 23. Well, first of all, let's take a look at our sheet. If we look down at our sheet, we know the square root of 25 is 5. This isn't the square root of 25. It's some number that's not perfect. So that means we're going to have a decimal. That means we're going to have a decimal answer. For this class, I want you to give 1 decimal. Calculators give like 8 or 10. We want 1. Because you're using your brain, you're better than a calculator. So here's what I want you to do is think to yourself, what's close to the square root of 23? Well, if we look at our table, the square root of 25 is. So let's put anything that's above it next to it. And we can say the square root of 25 is 5. Well, this is less than. The question then is, how much less? Like how far do we go to get to the next perfect square? You can use your table, and below 25 is square root of 16. So let's write the smaller one above it. So the square root of 16 is 4. So we want to find out, where does this square root exist between two perfect squares? So now if you look at our steps, that's what we're going to do. We're always going to find the perfect square that's smaller or lower. We're always going to find the perfect square that's of higher value. And now we know it's somewhere in between, so I want you to estimate it. So this is going to be something like 4 point something. Well, what is that something? Is it close to 4? Is it close to 5? Well, because 23 is close to 25, let's say 4.8. That's our answer. You estimated the square root of 23 is 4.8. Awesome. That's what we're going to be doing. So let's take a look at the second question. The square root of 10. You think to yourself, wait a second, we got the sheet. We look for 10. Hey, 9's there. 9's just below it. So the square root of 9 is 3. So this is slightly bigger. If we look at our table, the next bigger one is the square root of 16. So that's 4. So we've got the smaller one's 3, the bigger one's 4. So the square root of 10 is going to be 3 point something. So now we do the last step. Who is it closer to? Is it closer to 3 or is it closer to 4? Well, I think 10 is close to 9. So I'm going to go 3.2. That's what we're going to do. Let's get some more practice. Let's flip the page. Bring this down. Square root of 33. Well, if you want to use your table every time you can. So look at 33. Where is it? And we go 9, 16, 25, 36. Okay, there we are. 25 and 36 are below and above. So always do the one that's smaller above it, because it keeps track of it there. Always do the one that's bigger just after it or below it. And then ask yourself, 25, 36, where's 33? Well, you're always going to use the smaller number. And now it's getting close to 36, but not that close. So I would say something like 5.7. Now, when you use a calculator and punch this in, yeah, it might be off, but darn good without a calculator. Maybe you say 5.8. It's all good. Let's keep on going. Let's do question 4. 43, the square root of 43. We look at our table. 25, 36. Okay, here we are. So look at the 2. Below is the square root of 36. Above is the square root of 49. So that means, well, 36 was 6. 49 was 7. This is a neat one because it's kind of in the middle. It's 6. It's bigger than that one. It's smaller than that one. So I would say somewhere around 6.5. I think it's a bit closer there. So let's say 6.6. And that's pretty good. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, I think it's 6.7, and somebody else think it's 6.5, you know, because we're thinking and we're using our ability to estimate, any one of those is good. Let's do one last question. The square root of 104. Well, I'm hoping you're getting better at your table. You look at this, and the one that's smaller is the square root of 100 is 10. And getting bigger, the square root, one higher, is 121. So now you're thinking to yourself, whoa, square root of 100 is 10, square root of 121 is 11. It's way closer to 10. I'm going to say something like 10.1 or 10.2. And you're like, there's 2 answers there, Mr. Kramer. That's not mathy. Yes, it is, because you're doing this because of your brain. You're thinking. Calculator, who cares? So I hope this lesson made sense to you. You can use your table. You can use your sheet. What I want you to do is do the next practice questions on your own. And look at here. I can stop, try the practice on your own. And I'm going to go through now and do the rest of the questions for you as an answer key. But if you want to pause and do all the questions and then look at my answers afterwards. So Let's take a look at this. The square root of 6. I'm going to write the square root of 6 right in the middle. And if you're using your table, the one that's smaller is 4, which means it's smaller. 2 is too small. The square root of 9 is 3. Somewhere in between, so this means it's about 2 point something. It's getting close to the middle, so I'm going to say 2.3 or 2.4. Yeah. You know, if you wanted to say 2.5, I'd say sure too. And I say, Mr. Kramer, that's 3 answers. Yeah, but look, they're all close together. That's what I want you to understand is you can be close. So let's keep on going. The square root of 18. Who's smaller? The square root of 16, which is 4. Who's bigger? The square root of 25, which is 5. So 18 is way closer to 16, so we're going to say it's like 4.2 or 4.3. I think that's good. That's good. Square root of 37. What's smaller? Square root of 36, which is 6. What's bigger? The square root of 49, which is 7. Now this is way close to that, quite far away from that. So I'm going to say with confidence 6.1. And I mean that, like confidence is part of your answer, especially when you're estimating. 61, let's write it over here. Square root of 61, when we go smaller. You may need to use your table. The bigger one's 64, which is 8. The smaller one's 49, which is 7. So that means we have 7 point something. What is that something? Well, 61 is getting pretty close to 8. It's getting close to the big number. So let's say 7.7 or 7.8. Good answer. Do the next couple of questions. Square root of 73. 73. If you look at your table, smaller is 64. Bigger is 81. And you're like, man, Mr. Kramer, that's right in the middle. Like it's 9 bigger there, and wow, so you can guesstimate. You can say 8.5 or 8.6 or even 8.7. And you're like, Mr. Kramer, can you have that many answers? Yeah, because look at those numbers, 8.7, 8.7, 8.6, 8.5. They're all pretty damn close. So, good job. Square root of 132. The smaller is 121, which is 11. The bigger is 144, which is 12. And again, this is pretty close to the middle. So if you're saying 11.5 or 11.6, great answer. And now we got some big numbers. Look at number 7. I gave you a hint. The square root of 400 is 20. So if we do the square root of 403, we know the smaller is 20. We don't need to know the bigger one. We know it's 21. It's going to be a big number. So I'm going to guess 20.1. Done. So now we're over here. Last question. The square root of 892. My hint is the square root of 900 is, well, we can kind of use what we did last class. The square root of 9 is 3, so that's 30. So this is going to be something smaller than 30, so it's going to be 29 point. And at this point, you're impressing everybody. Let's say 29.6 or 29.7. I think those are great answers. So I hope you understood this. I'm going to be offering office hours and help sessions later on this week. Please stay tuned for the post. You can always email me or post something on Teams, and I can help you through there. So hope you like this lesson. I hope you're more of a thinker. Thanks very much.